Hi everyone, this is Sound of Drop Fall into Poison, and I'm back, hopefully. I've got a brand new computer with some ridiculous hardware inside of it. I've bought a couple of new games I plan on playing, and I've got a few lined up that I plan to play over the next few months. I'll let some of those be a surprise, but one of them I'm going to spoil right now. Dark Souls 3 is on my list. I'm going to try and do videos every other day, at least. But for now, let's get into this. This is a horror story slash visual novel. And yes, it's very Japanese anime. I don't care. I like it. I hope you like it too, though, if anybody's watching this. Whatever. Let's go. Before she realized it, the girl was standing before an imposing door. The girl occasionally came to Manton Aquarium alone. She watched the manta rays, she watched the jellyfish, and finally she decided it was time to go home. Where is this? She had her doubts, but there should be nothing else there except for the aquarium. She assured herself that she had probably wandered off onto a side path. The door before her had a large padlock hanging from it. Just as she had heard it, it was unlocked and merely dangling there. Gulp. The girl drew in a breath. Being locked would usually mean that it was a place she shouldn't enter. Being open just meant that a staff member had forgotten to lock it, so going in was out of the question. Her curiosity piked, she was past the point of persuasion. Her imagination ran wild and her mind raced at the prospect of what might lie beyond the door. Just for a little bit. Famous last words, like really. She opened the door and saw lots of glass tanks. Several types of fish hailing from the deep seas, from football fish and oarfish to pelican eels and barrel eyes. They were all swimming about. Why isn't this an exhibit? She thought it over, wondering why this would be in a closed-off area. Behind her, the door shut on its own. Gonna point out how typical of a trope that is. The girl spaced out, staring at the deep-sea fish swimming about. They would leap from the tank and swim in midair. This is where it gets trippy. The entirety of the room was the fish and their ocean. Though it was an unnatural occurrence, the girl treated it as quite normal. Yeah, just the eels swimming about in the air. I got those in my room too. Wasn't there originally a deep sea fish booth that was shut down? I have no clue what this is about. She suddenly remembered. At that moment, her surroundings were dyed a deep red. The water in the tanks, the fluorescent lights, all of it was red. The girl's vision became red. When she opened her eyes, the girl was back in her own room. It was well into the night. She couldn't remember how she had gotten home after all that. But more importantly, she had a bad feeling about something else. It isn't red here. She became aware of how hard it suddenly was to breathe. No matter how hard she gasped, she was unable to get oxygen into her body. Like the fish who couldn't breathe anywhere but in the water, she couldn't breathe unless she was inside that red color. She was convinced. On impulse, she threw open the window, leaned out, and thrust a hand outside. She couldn't inhale the wind flooding her room. She could only smell its milky, unpleasant scent. More. At that moment, the girl's body was tossed into the air. For just a second, her body seemed to float like a fish in the sea. Her room was on the 12th floor of her apartment building. In her fading consciousness, the girl watched her blood flow endlessly from her body. It's red. Only then could she breathe. Now everything would be fine. Talk about some SCP kind of stuff. Have y'all played that game? Seen Markiplier play it? Anything? Okay, well, you'll get what I mean if you have. The girl smiled. The full moon in the night sky smiled too. That's odd and it has a very Japanese feel. Drip, drip. The sound of falling drops. The moon was concealed behind the clouds, and all of the lights in the town were covered in water. The sound of it the only thing left to resonate. She couldn't tell whether it was hot or cold, merely that the humid air was encircling her. Drip, drip. Wherever they were falling, wherever they were coming from, the drops just continued to trickle out. That single drop, I stopped it with both hands. And suddenly it's blood. The sound of that solitary red drop. I mean, I'm not really scared or anything yet. This is a little unsettling, though. Taking something peaceful and suddenly twisting it into gore. And upbeat. And what is this? Hello, very anime-looking girls. Or at least there's an urban legend that goes like that. And so the entire introduction was a creepy story. Talking about Manton Aquarium again, that's your new thing, isn't it? So we have Mayumi, and while stuffing her lunch into her mouth, Tamagawa Himeno spoke, her eyes sparkling. I had no idea which point in the story got her so excited. So that's Himeno, and this is Mayumi. I've had a Japanese languages class, so I have some small amount of background experience in pronouncing these syllables. Himeno. That's right. Isn't that the scariest part? That the girl jumped to her death smiling after coming back from Manton Aquarium? It's pretty bad. Yet you don't seem the least bit scared, Himeno. That's not true. I've got chills running down my spine. Someone who's got chills running down her spine wouldn't be eating a pastry so cheerfully. And hey, that's my meatball. During a break in the conversation, Himeno stole a side dish from my boxed lunch, or bento. Do you like Japanese culture? I do. This minced meat from growing calves and little piglets. It's the best. Somebody's a sadist. Why do you have to put it like that? Jeez, why'd you have to make me lose my appetite? I'll give you the rest of it. Alright, I'll take it. Himeno takes the rest of the meatballs from my lunch with amazing rhythm. The reason that I, Nakanobi Mayumi, lost my appetite wasn't because Himeno's story scared me. Manton Aquarium and I are connected in a way that I'd rather not think about. Of course, Himeno has no idea about that connection. If she knew, she'd never mention Manton Aquarium around me again. At the same time, I've been afraid that this thing might cause Himeno to stop talking to me. Himeno is pretty much my only friend. It isn't that I haven't talked to anyone since entering junior high, just that the only person I can actually call a friend is Himeno. Seriously, I think this whole Manton Aquarium rumor obsession is getting to be a bit much. Maybe. There's so many rumors though, like that there's a man's ghost in the tanks, that the deep sea fish booth is only open on a full moon, that the water changes into blood, or that you can hear crying from behind the tanks. That's all perfectly creepy if you imagine walking into it. That earlier one goes with this one. Also, no, that's fine, you don't need to say anymore. I say firmly, causing Himeno to make a sour face. Soon after, Himeno changes the subject, first to a TV drama that aired the night before, then to some cute fake nails with cats on them she found in a magazine. She then talks about a classmate who is dating a boy from a nearby private school, alighting on one subject before quickly changing to the next. Normally, the subject of Manton Aquarium shouldn't have popped up again. Anyway, getting back to what we were talking about earlier. Huh? What exactly are we getting back to? Manton Aquarium. I looked into it, and this Sunday will be a full moon. That was all I could say. The rest of my words were unable to come out. So we've got some pretty typical story framework going on between the friendship dynamic, a secret, a uncomfortable rumor, and the promise of a mystery behind, what Mayumi knows or doesn't know. So we should go and see if the rumors are true or not. I know you aren't interested in stuff like urban legends, Mayu, but next week we'll start preparing for the end of the semester and I won't be able to hang out with you. Lately, we haven't gone anywhere together, have we? If the full moon was next Sunday, I'm sure Jimeno wouldn't have said anything, but I suspect because it happens to be this Sunday, and next week happens to be our exams, she's chosen Manton Aquarium. And look at that face! It's just a drawn face, I don't care. I know that I'm not hiding my confusion or my hesitation very well. Even so, Jimeno turns her carefree grin my way. Since it's an aquarium, even if the rumors aren't true, we can still have fun, right? Oh, that's true. Usually anywhere I go with Jimeno, I have fun. Whether or not we'd have fun was not what I was worried about. By the way, Mayu, in the east building of Manton Aquarium, they have a Haagen-Dazs. Is that like their spin to avoid copyright infringement on the ice cream thing? As in the eat-in restaurant? They had closed up at one point, but it looks like they're reopening for a limited time. Or maybe it's just a different name I don't know about altogether. Really? Really? They have the cookies and cream flavor you like too? Okay, never mind, I was right. Of course I hesitate, but in the end, that settles it. Then we'll go, as long as we definitely get some cookies and cream. I would go to a haunted aquarium for cookies and cream ice cream. Saying you have no money because you did too much shopping is out of the question. I know, after all, I'm something of a glutton myself. Yeah, you stole like 3/4 of our bento lunch. Fine, fine. In the end, we settle on Manton Aquarium and ice cream for Sunday. That sounds so fun. Since I have already received my reward money for moving on to the next grade, I don't need to worry about my allowance. Still, it's been 5 years. Wow, that sudden change in tone. Did you say something, Maya? No, nothing. I bite my tongue, covering the words that had carelessly spilled out. I'm looking forward to the aquarium. It's probably been about 10 years. I'm looking forward to the cookies and cream. It's probably been about 10 years. That's not true. It's the truth. It's the only thing I'll eat out there. You little, as she playfully stretches my cheeks. The end of the lunch chime sounds and Jimeno goes back to her own seat. If it's with Jimeno, I'll be fine. That's what I told myself at the time. Okay. I guess this is a loading screen. End of scene. It's supposed to be a visual novel, so I suppose the game format will be different from what I'm used to. Sunday is 3 days after that. The day I promised to go with Jimeno to Manton Aquarium has arrived. We are to meet at noon at the Mantencho station. As is customary for me, I arrived 30 minutes early. 30 minutes? Okay, you're really cautious, so we'll pick up on that little, read between the lines subtext. Leaning against a pillar, I do nothing but space out. Sounds like me. Tons of people pass before me. Manton is really crowded on days off. Even so, there aren't really that many families or groups of students, everyone around me appearing to be adults. Because of that, I quickly begin to feel uneasy. I understand this girl, I suppose she's probably like 12. Within this crowd, I am alone. Inexplicably, my head begins to hurt. I wonder if Jimeno will be here soon. I mutter to myself, then look at my shoes. Deep blue sandal boots that were this year's newest product. When Mom and I had stopped off at a department store on Saturday, she brought them for me after some coaxing on my part. They were far from what you'd call high quality, but they were still a bit pricey on a junior high schooler's allowance. I'm not usually the type to beg, but I couldn't take my eyes off of these boots. My mom bought them with almost no resistance, saying, "You're going out of town, so you should look your best." I liked both their form and their color, and found them a better fit for the summer season than anything else. I would otherwise write this off as just filler description, but there's probably some important clues we get from this. The relationship between the girl and her mother, or maybe the shoes will be important later on in the story. You never know sometimes. I take my cell phone out and check the time. There are still 15 minutes to go until we're to meet. Since Jimeno is always 3 minutes later than the time we establish, I've got about another 20 minutes. I finished reading my paperback on the train, so I have nothing to kill time with. There's nothing I can do about it, so I decide to keep myself from boredom by watching the people passing by. If I don't keep myself distracted, horrible thoughts will revive in my mind. I'm always worrying about what will happen if I'm late, though. It had actually been about a month and a half since Jimeno and I had gone out. We always talked at school, but rarely spent time together afterwards. Anyone who saw us probably thought we were opposites. Outings like this aside, I often spend my days off at home. Hey, so do I. When I was in elementary school, our family would go out often, but lately that's been limited to dining out on Saturdays. So when I'm asked what I do when I stay at home, I usually just say I do nothing. Doing homework and watching TV is stuff that seems pretty common to me. On the other end of the spectrum is Jimena, who goes out regularly. I often hear stories of when she went to karaoke on weeknights or about how she traveled out of town on Sundays. She's a member of an active sports club and often wants to hang out with them afterwards. Going out of town on the already limited days off tends to make me think, even though it's a day to rest, I don't feel rested at all. In other words, something like this is a difference between Jimeno and I. Introversion and extroversion. Without much common ground between us, why we became friends is... And that's where I'm going to stop this video. It's been a very long introduction. Even after my editing, it's going to be a very long introduction. So, anybody that is coming back for my grand revival... That sounds really weird. For my grand reintroduction. That still sounds weird. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope anybody out there that still thinks I've got a shot at making this dream come true, I hope you'll keep supporting me in the future. Thank you so much, and I hope you'll be watching with me next time.